for Wednesday, September 11th. Roll call.
Lloyd Johnson, Council Member Liaison.
Mike Scanlon, Barry Reiberger,
Tracy Bruno.
Sylvia Henry,
Justin Emery,
Jeff Belter,
And Miles Campbell.
Now we will stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now entertain a motion for approval of minutes from the August 21st, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission.
I make that motion.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, we will close the Planning and Zoning meeting at 7:02 and open the public hearing.
Sure, so just to give an update of where things stand, since last week we've talked over kind of the ordinance as a whole and happy to answer any questions about it in general. But I figured I'd just run through the specific changes that were made since last meeting in response to your guys' comments. So for one, there was a comment just about the inclusion still of language around business signs. Those have been removed and replaced in different sections. So in case of a couple, I think page 15, you can see it's not just a flat identification sign referred to. Basically, we're trying to, like we've already talked about, remove any kind of content-based language or anything like that. So this is just furthering that. I think you had a couple that slipped through the last time, basically. Secondly, we talked about, we had a lot of discussion around off-premise signs where we didn't necessarily want to allow for stuff like billboards or really too much proliferation of those on Highway 12. But at the same time, we really appreciated their use for local event advertising and things like that. Kind of compromise that I thought would work for commissioners and for the city would be to allow for off-premise signs as temporary or via temporary or portable sign permit that would be considered by the zoning administrator would be subject to the regulations for all temporary and portable signs. So just like we have for a sign that was on premise that was up for 15 days or less, we'd allow for it for off-premise signs, and that would allow for, I believe, up to 32 square feet area. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, 32 square feet.
Yep, so that would kind of solve the issue of being able to have it for the events that the city has and wants to advertise along the highway or off different kind of corridors without having to open up the floodgates entirely to permanent off-premise signs being allowed. It seems like a good kind of balance between the two. There was some talk about kind of punching up the enforcement aspect of the code. So what I did was include at the very end of page 22, you'll see the enforcement section now references that actions and proceedings against a violator include but not limited to those described in chapter 25, administrative enforcement of the city code. So the administrative enforcement will probably end up taking a look at in the future regardless, just to make sure that everything is working in such a way that Deb and other people at the city can actually go through the process of enforcing their sign code. But this is just giving that kind of authority to it, not just jumping into misdemeanors and legal cases and et cetera, that the cities frankly would not want to go to the lengths of for stuff like temporary signs. On the temporary sign permit application, I had some language that says that the fee for a temporary sign would be waived if it was for a period of less than 10 days. It's something we talked about. And then the language around the sandwich board signs, where there's some confusion as to what that was asking a person to do or not to. I went through and cleared that out and made it into a couple different bullet points now, so it's a little bit clearer, I think. And yeah, so that's the changes that were made from last week to this, or not last week, last meeting.
Any of the commissioners have any questions or comments in regards to the changes that were made?
Well, I know there was a lot of discussion on the temporary sign portion, garage sale signs. And so as it stands with these revisions, there would be no exemption or exception for those.
No, so the way that it would be handled now is, again, they'd be applying for temporary permits, they'd go down to City Hall, they'd basically fill out the form. I assume at this point we'd be talking about a weekend, so it wouldn't be any kind of fee subject to, we'd waive that basically. We'd have a kind of what the property is going to be on, or if it's going to be on a street post or something like that, because with this, we will be allowing for off-premise temporary signs. So they could put a sign down the street, something like that, and put one on the property itself. We would waive the fee if it was for less than 10 days. And basically, we'd have it on the books, so we'd have record of when it was going up and when it was supposed to come down, so that we don't have the issue of, garage sale signs to the end of time.
Would there, I thought about this quite a bit, I did watch the video of the city council meeting for Monday. Instead of, to me, it seems just a bit onerous to have people that want to do a 5-day garage sale come in and apply for a sign. And if they don't, then we're stuck with guaranteed enforcement.
Sure.
So, to me, it just seems like it's going to create an enforcement issue regardless of how it's done. Instead of doing that upfront portion, why don't we just exempt out temporary signs that are less than a specific size, that are intended for display for no more than 5 days?
Sure.
I'm thinking Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, so it'd be
Wednesday's a new Thursday, so most of them start on Wednesday and are done on Sunday. And so, looking at our existing code, I mean, a garage sale sign can be up to 6 square feet. That, I'm not thinking something that big. If somebody wants to do an extremely large garage sale sign, get a day permit.
Sure.
But if it's a smaller sign, let's exempt them. And then also put in there that the city, if not removed in 5 days, the city has the ability to just remove it.
You need to put something, because
Oh, yeah, that's-
the city
Otherwise they
council,
stack up on top
yeah,
of
city
everything.
council really wants you to do code enforcement, and the big thing about the ordinance right now is I have no teeth to do anything, and so we have to have stuff in there that allows me to remove signs.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Barry that just to have a garage sale, they have to come in and get a permit seems a little ridiculous. And so,
Would you guys, my thought is, I'd say, okay, if it ends on Saturday, it needs to be down by Monday morning. If your garage sale's done on Saturday, that's 3 days to pull it down, and if it's not down by Monday morning, then the city maintenance guys go around, pull them and put them on the person's front yard.
The only issue with that portion would be is that that's looking strictly at garage sale signs.
Yeah.
These are temporary signs, so we can't regulate content. We can't say garage sale sign has to be this. We have to look at it as a temporary sign basis, so that's why it's 5 consecutive days of graduation. Is it directional, is it not? Well, this way, if we do it this way, it's temporary, it's only going to be a couple of days. That's why I was thinking 5 days or less than a certain size. Now, I went and looked today at how big is, a sign you can pick up at Menards for a garage sale. Well, they vary from 8 by 15 to 20 by 24. And those are ones that you can just purchase. Well, there's a bunch of homemade ones out there that might be a little bit bigger. Same with graduation signs, Jim's graduation party might be, more 2 foot by 2 foot. So to me, it's about picking a size, picking a time frame, anything that meets those two. If you're not going to meet one of those two, then get a permit. But if you're under those 2 size requirements, or the size and the time period requirement, make them exempt, and just make them exempt from the application process. But then add in language that I think I did. City shall have the right to remove and destroy such signs if not removed after 5 days. Written right into the ordinance language.
I think at the end of the garage sale, they should go around and pick them up.
well, yeah.
Why should we have to dispose of them? If it's their garage sale, I think.
Well, see, just
Put them on their yard.
logistically, I look at that as difficult, because how do I know when they put that sign out?
Well-
I'm not gonna be around policing signs.
No, I'm just saying, okay, if you're gonna have, typically most people are gonna have parties on the weekends. So your 5 days is gonna be Wednesday to Sunday. And come Monday morning, if those signs are still up, they're getting pulled.
Yeah, because if,
What if I'm having a party on Tuesday? No matter which way you look at it, it ain't gonna work.
It's.
So I take the sign down for a day and I put it back up the next day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'd have to also have some sort of limit on number per per property, obviously. If there is a question of, if we're not doing not another, so I think the temporary sign permits that we have right now is you're limited to a certain amount per year, so that there isn't the temporary sign that's actually permanent signs that just keep putting it back out, and et cetera, et cetera. There'd be a little bit of worry on my end if we, one, from the perspective of a limit maybe on how many per property would you be able to have at a certain time, and then something in this limit per year. But again, if we're not doing any kind of a permit or anything like that, you know, who am I to say that you've had 3 signs up on your property?
Well, who's gonna be able to
Yeah.
keep track
Yeah,
of that
exactly.
in office anyway? They're not
Or even if
gonna-
we're saying, a 5-day period, you can, I can go and say you put it up on Wednesday, you can tell me to put it up on, you know, Thursday. As soon as that doesn't have a manpower.
To a certain degree, it takes a little bit of common sense. If you have a garage sale that lasts from Thursday to Saturday, the sign should be down by Monday because the garage sale is over.
Right,
If it's a party, that's a different thing altogether.
but that's still considered a temporary,
Right,
that's
right.
considered a temporary sign.
Right.
So, I mean, that's where you run into the issue of,
Yeah, I agree, you have to have some language, but I mean.
I mean, if
some
your
of
party's
this
on
is kind of simple.
Tuesday, you know, so if your party's Tuesday, the following Monday, you shouldn't have your sign up anymore.
Yeah, but if I put it up the Sunday or Monday before the party, if everyone's going around pulling on Monday, it's gonna get pulled and no one's gonna know where to go.
Right, because the reason why
Date your
I,
sign, party on.
the reason why I advocate for them just so,
One of those wiki calendar
That's
days.
exactly.
the reason why I advocate for them filling out an application is because they can indicate to me what days are gonna be out there, and then I can go police it, because I don't know how else I'm gonna police that. I don't know when they're gonna put it out.
I don't honestly, from the chatter that I have heard and seen, they're not gonna fill new permits for garage sales.
Then they get, then they get pulled.
I mean, you know, it's kind of a catch
So then
22.
which way?
I know, that's it.
They're gonna get pulled anyway.
Right. I mean, from, yeah.
But it would give me more teeth, as I keep saying, if I know what days are gonna have it there, if they put it in it.
The dates are usually on the sign too, though.
I see, yeah, other meetings you have, usually you see it more with kind of permanent structures will have a, like, ID or, you know, who's the owner of the sign and stuff like that. I've seen it on temporary stuff, but then again, it is kind of is a person gonna go to the trouble of sign the back and bring the name and the date.
Anybody have any idea how many garage sales the city of Montrose has in a year?
Yeah.
Shot in the dark?
More than 2.
I can,
Less than 300?
I don't know that, but I can tell you that people are picking up their signs to the point where they're bent and they're hanging off of our light poles and they're half hanging on and off, and so I need something. And we received that directive from the Montrose Streetscape Committee. They really want to clean up along Highway 12. And actually, now they've been directed to do all of our main drags.
You know,
So-
when we have a meeting that's never brought up about the signs,
They asked me to bring this to planning and zoning, Sylvia.
yeah, but they never said anything at Streetscape/Highway 12 redevelopment. I go to every one of them.
But they did ask me to bring it up at one of the meetings, not the last one, but the one before that, and then they asked, Ellen called me and asked me to take pictures for you to view so that you knew what I was talking about.
Do you want us to?
You have to, they have to come, you
Do
have to come up to the podium, and you have to say your address, please.
That's fine.
Wait, waiting for you to tell us. Okay, just,
I'm Debbie, and I have a
just
garage
a
sale.
minute, I need to know your first name and your last name and your address.
Debbie Twelkey, 602 First Street North. I have a garage sale every year. My signs half the time get taken down anyway, because when they mow or do whatever, I have them removed. So I guess my question is, I'm just gonna go take my signs, how many can I put them? Where can I put them? Because I usually put them on First Street and I put them kind of off 12 just a little bit. So I mean, that's another thing. I think it's kind of unfair that we have to pay to get a permit. Sometimes I do run my garage sale a couple, like I do it 2 weeks. So I do it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I do it the next week again. Because I don't have the traditional Saturday garage sale. I think it's unfair also that with the businesses that you're gonna have them pay permits for businesses to advertise, because for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all the charities, all the stuff they do in the community, now you're gonna have them pay permits? That seems just kind of crazy to me. I mean, we're a community. Shouldn't we be able to put signs up? I know inappropriate signs, yes, but I think that they should be able to advertise for their benefits or for the things that we do in Montrose and all the things that we do in this community. So I just think that permit is a very bad idea, and I really don't think that I should have to get a permit to have a garage sale, and I don't think you guys should have to be making us pay to do benefits and that kind of stuff, and that's all I have to say.
Question, I know we talked about making like the fire department, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts exempt from having to pay, they had to fill out a permit, they didn't have to pay a fee, right?
So we had talked about in terms of if it was not up for a certain amount of time. I don't think we talked about anything in terms of, see what the organization or anything being exempt. So it would be whatever the time limit that we put on it. If the permit can run for 15 days and you don't pay a fee, but if it's, 10 of those 15 days or whatever we set it at, I don't think we could set a fee for only certain groups versus other groups. I think that would run afoul of some of this stuff. Not speaking as a city attorney or anything like that.
I think nonprofit groups should have to pay.
Sure, and we can talk to the city attorney about that. I will.
Terry Vanderbeek, address is 644 36th Street Southwest, Buffalo. I live out in Marysville Township. But I'm with Buffalo Fire Department, and I'm president of Montrose Days Committee. Question I have is, our sign that we put up for Montrose Fire, we do about 2 or 3 signs a year, and they're longer than 15 days, I'm sorry. They're gonna be up for 30 days. And if you're gonna fine us for it, we work for the city. It'd be a city ticket. And then our Montrose Day signs, we had down on Highway 12, and then down by the Clementa, they both were taken down.
By the city.
Yeah, we don't know who did it, but we decided to put other signs down in Marysville Township and those stayed up.
We didn't take, the city didn't take them down.
Okay.
Was it
Well,
on,
I'm pretty sure they did, yes.
was it on Highway?
I already talked to the state of Minnesota about it.
yeah, we talked to you.
The city of Montrose did not take any of those signs down.
Okay.
They maintain that area to mow. I'm pretty sure he took them down, because I drove by that day as he was mowing. The next morning, they were gone.
But I'm just wondering if, you're saying only for a few days, I was hoping that with Montrose Days, when we promote for the city on what's going on, it's not bad language or nothing, it's talking about bands and everything that goes on, that we can at least keep them up a little bit longer, because when we put them up, we try to put them up for 30 days. And that's it. And, like, for our fire department, we put up for the pork chop dinner, we put up for the prime rib dinner, just to try to draw more people out of their houses, from the community, up to the fire station. That's all we're doing. And when we do it for 30 days, or, once we're done with it, we take it back right away.
Sure. Just for accuracy, how many times a year would you say, like separate times?
We do it for the pork chop dinner, the prime rib dinner, and then we do it for, when we're hiring for firefighters.
Sure.
Just so we can try to get more members from the
But the
community.
pork chop dinner is during Montrose.
Montrose Days, but we still put up a sign for it.
A separate?
Yep. Yeah, because it's our fire relief association who's put it on, besides the fire bus helping all, but yeah, all the proceeds go for our relief association. That's all we have.
Brian Oswald, 231 Buffalo Avenue, north. He kind of covered the Montrose Day stuff for me already, so I'm just curious, are you gonna make people that are running for city council pull permits for each place they wanna put their signs out?
Everybody would have to.
And the realtors and the
Realtors, because there's so many places. I worked for the city of Plymouth for well over 20 years, and development, those signs stay. If they're hanging on our light poles, we can pull them at any time. You want to put that in consideration?
I think that's really good if
I mean,
I thought we,
if it's a garage sale sign, fine. What about all the locate flags? When there's locate been done, because they're putting new gas main in.
Well, those are temporary, they're getting cold. But that's a safety issue.
Yeah, the problem is they have 7 days. Whoever does work is supposed to pull those.
Yeah.
They don't get done 3/4 of the time. So there's a lot of things to think about.
Oh, there's no doubt, yeah.
You know.
That's why we're having a public hearing.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why I'm here.
Right.
Well, and the campaign signs are, all non-commercial signs are supposed to be getting 46 days before the state primary in the state or federal general election year until 10 days following the general election.
Well,
That's what it says.
garage sale sign isn't considered a
camping.
No.
Well, the garage sale sign wouldn't be, there wouldn't be a fee for it. And what we're talking about is just to try to get people to take them down when they're done. That's the reason
That I
this whole
understand.
thing is going on, is because people that have the garage sales, not everybody, but some people, never take them down, which causes us to have to do this kind of stuff.
I
So that's what I
understand.
was saying at the beginning, if people just took their signs down after the garage sale, we wouldn't have to deal with any of this.
I totally understand.
So
I
that,
believe coming from the 12 redevelopment committee, you know, they were saying signs hanging from the light post. I mean, the current ordinance now prohibits that.
Right.
That can pull down right away.
Right, and anything in a right of way. So basically, if you live in a neighborhood, anything from the sidewalk to the street, you can't put a sign. That's within the right of way.
Yeah, if you
You
got a
can't put
pole.
a sign there. So if a rubber sale sign is removed because they're mowing, yeah, they should pick it up and put it on their mower and get rid of it because it's not legally placed by our current.
I do know that when MinDOT goes along Highway 12, they will also pull signs because of vision reasons.
Right of ways.
I beg to differ with that,
Yeah.
because I talked to the state of Minnesota when the Montreal Gate signs came down. Because my shop is right next to the state of Minnesota. I called him, so I had a friend there, and he told me who to contact in Hutchinson or the Buffalo shop. I contacted him and said, oh, we had no clue they were there.
I can't answer to it. I don't know.
So I'm just, you know,
Now, if it was on Highway 12, this happened with some other signs. Highway 12, this east of Montrose, west, is out of St. Cloud. Them signs will go to St. Cloud.
they called the St. Paul shop also.
Oh,
They, all three were contacted.
Yeah, we're
Because I asked
regulated
about
by,
Montrose, I asked about Montrose Day sign.
we're regulated by District 3, which is out of St. Cloud.
So,
is St. Cloud?
Yes.
because Hutchinson sent me to Buffalo said, because the guy there knew the guy I know in Plymouth, says I will personally call him and find out where you don't contact the back. So, he goes, no, we never talked to him.
Did anybody, when they got taken down, anybody go to City Hall and ask them?
Yes, the question was raised. And they said, well, we know nothing about it.
Do you know who they talked to in City Hall?
Can't remember her name.
Jessica?
Maybe, it could have been, I could ask, but she's not here right now to talk to, so.
but it's an area where the city mows.
Or?
Yes, right next to Carpenter Contractor and right off the corner of Clementa. And I know that for a fact, because I personally went out and pulled most of the signs down. So that's why I'm asking. It's a community event, is it not? You think you want to promote that as much as you can. So, that's what I have.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions for the commission regarding our permits?
doing the sign.
Brooke Klug, 707 Brook Circle West. I pretty much have a lot of the same concerns as these guys. You know, really, you're gonna get people to come in and fill out an application, a permit application. Are you really gonna be able to follow up on it effectively? There's so many, you know, do you exempt this, do you exempt that? How are you gonna get realtors to come into it? How are you gonna get the roofers to come into it? I mean, look around. Take your pick. There's all, you know, the little signs, like campaign signs, all over for a million different things. Do you think any of those people are gonna come and fill out an application for having a sign up? Probably none of them. And in all honesty, I don't think anybody in the community even knew that this was a discussion until city council. That's a problem in itself. Lastly, I think we have got way bigger issues to deal with as far as planning and zoning and code enforcement. We have junk cars, we've got, you know, yards full of crap, I mean, the list can go on and on. Deb already had to hire a part-time person to help her with this because there's so much, and now you want to add more? That's just stupid. I mean, quite honestly. And how much of a nanny city do you want to become? There are certain things you have to do for safety, for health purposes, so that, you know, you don't go over with rats or, you know, things like that. But this kind of stuff is just so small and petty and just, seriously think about what you're doing. We're not downtown Minneapolis. It's a tiny little rural town. You do have to have some order, but this is kind of going above and beyond, I think. So, my 2 cents.
April Brazak, 4671 on Road 12. I want to know how you're going to implement these for people that do live in Marysville Township or whatever. Because if I'm having a garage sale, I put up one in Buffalo to get them to come down County Road 12 to my house. You know, how are you going to inform everybody that's going to put a sign up that has a garage sale out in the country, where there are many of them? How can you put a limit on the number of signs that you're going to have for a garage sale? Some people live deep in a neighborhood and they want to come off of a main road. Like you said, this is just something you guys gotta, and to enforce it, to have people come up to City Hall to get a permit, I just don't see that happening. Maybe you can say there has to be dates on the sign and an address of where you're going, because most garage sale signs have those. But you've got to compromise somewhere. You've got people coming in from out of town putting signs up just to get them to come to their place, and we always go back and get ours. I'm sorry that there's other people that don't, but this is really just an issue that is wasting your time.
Do we have any more discussion in regards to signage?
Personally, I don't disagree with the comments that have been made. I mean, that's why I was looking at some type of language to exempt signs on certain sides. Because of that very thing, I think we're better served with language that just says if they're up for such a period of time, they can be removed. I understand that the tracking of that can be a little bit problematic in and of itself, but at the same time, especially with a garage sale sign, you see a sign on Monday, you know, snap a picture of it. If it's still there on Friday, you know, it gets removed. And so I think the ability to remove those that just remain there far too long is going to be an easier proposition than trying to get people to apply for the permits. And as stated, there are a number of other signs, the contractor signs, you know, those types of things. We used to have, in our existing ordinance, we have that kind of language, but the Supreme Court is saying we can't do that anymore. We can't differentiate between what the content of the sign is. That's what brought this forward. It wasn't us behind here saying we need to do more or anything else. The main crux of this revision is to bring our ordinance in line with state statute. And in case law that's out there that says you cannot regulate signs based upon what they say. We can't say a rubbish sale sign is exempt. We have to say a sign of a certain shape in a certain location is exempt. And so it's not an easy fix, and I'm glad people are here to talk about it because it brings more of those issues to light. So, like I said, just myself, I'd like to see it rather based on size and length of display. The length of time it would be displayed versus, whether it's, temporary or not. If we still want to permit some temporary signs, let's go, well, if it's a bigger sign, yes, let's have a permit for it. Well, let's define what temporary then also means. Let's not, for instance, the pork chop feed and those types of things, instead of saying it can't be more than 15 days, let's say, how long is it going to be there? And then when the permit's approved, that time frame becomes a deadline date versus 15 days or whatever else. I mean, there you go. Don't mean to take over anything, but those are just my ideas.
No, yeah, and what I was, I agree with what I heard basically was the kind of concerns are mostly around either the very, very short-term stuff of the garage sale, the graduation party, the stuff that's small enough that why have a permit in the first place, and then on the flip side, kind of the Montrose days, the stuff where it's going to be up for periods of time or multiple times a year. The way we have it written right now is that an applicant in a year could apply for 2 15-day periods, and then rather than having a person, either having to have a different person apply or what have you, kind of like that, maybe we look at what the length of time is. I probably would want to keep some amount of length of time on there, because once we just say, you come in a term, tell us what your length of time is, then there's not, I want to have something where zoning administrator in the future has a hard thing to work off of, so they're not saying yes to one person who's only going to have it up for 15 days and no to someone's going to have it up for...
Why don't we piggyback it then off of the campaign sign portion, which has its basis in statute, and say any sign that is intended to be placed for more than 46 days is no longer a temporary sign.
The permanent sign.
It is subject to all other regulations of 1024.
So then campaign signs would have to have a fee?
No, campaign signs are exempt. They have that exemption on there.
I think right now the campaign signs have to be done 3 days after the election.
10 days.
It's 10 days, because I just read it. 10 days after the election. 46 days prior, 10 days after. It's not that we want to over-regulate things. Deb's had a lot of complaints at City Hall because people aren't taking signs down. We're trying to make it easier for her to be able to remove those signs. And I'm all for not having people fill out permits. I totally get that. But I also understand the fact that sometimes the city starts looking like crap, to put it nicely, because there's signs everywhere that people aren't taking down. We want to give Deb and the maintenance guys the right to go pull that sign, either put it back in that person's front yard, which would be my personal preference, because why should we as a city pay for that to be disposed of if we didn't put it out there? Give them the right to be able to do that and not get sued. Because there's going to be someone, and don't tell me there's not, that's going to sue over something, as a sign. So we're trying to protect the city, we're trying to protect Deb, we're also trying to clean up the city a little bit, because if you do drive around, there's a lot of signs out there that should have been taken out a long time ago. None of us are here to over-regulate this. We're trying to clean up the city, and the bottom line is, Montrose Days, you can have them up for 45 days as far as I'm concerned, because you're promoting the city thing. Fill out the permit and say, I want 45 days. If it's down at 32 days, great. If it's down at 43 days, I'm fine with that. But give us a time frame of how long you want it up. So we're trying to protect everybody in the city, not trying to make it meaningless or waste of time. We're trying to clean it up because we want the city to look nice. We want people to live here. People aren't going to live here if the town looks like crap.
There's a lot of other stuff way more important than a sign.
Well, this was brought to us, so we didn't have a choice. We were asked to do it based on another committee group that asked us to address it because of the complaints that are being filed at City Hall.
One other thing, about 3-4 years ago, the city of White Bear Lake got, because they didn't have their sign ordinance in their ducks in a row, got into a huge to-do with a couple of their neighbors. And it ended up costing the city millions of dollars in order to get this all fixed, which is another thing we're trying, because sooner or later, if the city doesn't have this stuff down right, they're gonna be involved in a lawsuit, which is gonna cost everybody in the city money. So you gotta get this stuff straight. And a lot of it is what Barry said, the state statutes have things that we have to get in line.
And you guys,
That's law. And you have
people
to
might
do it.
think that this is a waste of our time. We're trying to not make it a waste of everybody's time. That's why we have this. I mean, we had, last month we had the same thing and nobody showed up to tell us their concerns. So this is, we brought it back the second month because we wanted to hear people. I've been reading comments on Facebook. I mean, I'm not immune to them. I've talked to people, I've had text messages from people. So I'm hearing people. I just want you guys to know that we're not doing this to waste time. We're doing this to protect you and us and City Hall because ultimately we will get sued if we don't.
And with like the fire department signs and stuff, if we require other businesses to do it or other people to do it, we have to require you to do it. I mean, it's just, there's already enough of that going on in this city that, well, this group didn't have to, so why do I? So
So just come in and fill out the permit, and there's not gonna be a fee. We just wanna know how long it's gonna be up, where it's gonna be. That's all we're asking. Not anything more than that. We just wanna know, so that it can be taken down appropriately.
Yeah, this stuff you guys run it like clockwork anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the same time every year. You put it up a couple of weeks before the pork chop, a couple of weeks before the prime rib. So, so much of this stuff is just, but yeah, we've gotta have it. You can't say every tax exempt is different from a for-profit. It'd be cool if we could to make everything so much.
But as soon as you do that, you're opening yourself up to a lawsuit.
Yeah, then you're really screwing yourself.
And that's one of the problems we have with the existing sign ordinance. We can't enforce most of it because as soon as we go to court with it, it's going to say, well, that's, a speech-directed regulation that's not enforceable.
Yeah, and that becomes even bigger.
Hi, my name's Roy Henry and I live at 600 Nelson Boulevard. And you guys talk about signs and all this stuff. Well, I had campaign signs out and everything, and my campaign signs disappeared, but somebody else's campaign signs didn't disappear. So I had a friend over at MnDOT in Monticello, and I contacted him, and he gave me the offer for St. Cloud, and I called St. Cloud, and they said, yeah, we got your signs up here. I said, well, bring them back because you never took these other people's signs. So less than an hour, I had my signs back over there at the State Highway Department in Buffalo. But they sent a kid around in a brand new Dodge pickup with a topper on it. Nothing better to do. And I said, yeah, you're paying him $30-some an hour going around picking up people's signs and you don't take other people's signs.
That's not regulated by us. I mean, that's a whole state thing. That's out of our jurisdiction. We're trying to regulate within city limits.
But I think we're to the point, what do we want to do? Provided there's no more public comment.
If there's no,
On that
I got one comment.
issue.
I'd like to-
if there's no further public comment,
I want to make a comment.
okay.
One thing then, people might come home on a Friday and it's a real nice day and they want to have a garage sale Saturday and Sunday. Well, how are they going to get a permit? The city hall closes at 11 o'clock on a Friday.
But we're talking about not having to have
A permit.
for garage sales. So that we're talking about, we're not gonna have that. It's
No,
not-
it's considered temporary,
Right.
and
So
they
we
don't have to
wouldn't need
fill a permit.
for it.
But
the garage sale signs are the ones that's the problem.
Well, then, so, we talked about putting wording in here that states they have to have the dates of the garage sale on there and the address.
Yeah.
And after that 5 days, they're gone.
Yeah.
Whether we pull them or the person.
That's exactly okay.
Well, we can't do that because we can't be specific for garage sale. And so unless you require that for the contractor signs in somebody's yard, you can't, now we're doing it based on size and length.
What we can do is
not
a
content.
short-term, temporary sign that would not require a permit. We'd probably have a, size requirement to that, and we might have something like, have 1 to 2 per property and 1 off property or something like that. And then what would be basically highlighted would not be a rummage sale sign, garage sale sign, we'd have it for any purpose really, as long as only for whatever period of time. We really couldn't say in terms of it has to be for an event or any kind of advertising. It would be, you know, you could put up a sign that says,
All signs of a specific
Yeah.
size, or less than a specific size, displayed for a less than a a specific number of maximum days would be exempt from a temporary sign.
Yeah.
So if we date them, we're not gonna get them taken down, because every year I put mine up by the park and they're pulled by the mowing people.
Do you put them in the right of way?
I put them to the side, I don't put them right by the stop sign, I put them over more, I try to.
But
make
if
sure
they're
that
in between the sidewalk and the curb, if they're anywhere in the right of way,
They're not over, they are not by the stop sign over there, they are like in the park area, almost more by the pond area.
But if it's within 3 or 4 feet of the street, that's the public right of way. Right now, the city's rules say they can't be there, so they can remove them.
They can, oh, that's good to know. 'Cause
So they can
Yeah, we did that right.
I move them, no matter where I put them, I get them pulled, so I don't know, but, okay.
Any further comments regarding signage?
Ms. Bullen, I need to leave. Would you please post this so I can hear the rest of the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think it was posted the day after.
It is.
Miles, what, for this, I mean, what are we looking for right this now? Would we be looking at, I mean, since we haven't decided anything, we have to make recommendations on what we want to kind of see and then have revisions brought back to us again next month, or, I mean, I think that would be the most appropriate. I don't think we're in any position right now to vote on any specific language, but I think we should float around size, you know, size standards, those types of things, because that's what we're going to be looking at.
I got a question. Now, I think any sign that is on a light pole should be taken down.
It's already in there, it's already in the ordinance, it can be taken down immediately, it's already in the ordinance.
that'd be right away.
Yep,
Any right of way or equipment.
right.
Specific in the ordinance right now.
So what I would suggest from what we've talked about would be, where we have the regulations for temporary signs, and we have them written up right now in the general provisions, 1024-3. What we can add for the, at least kind of the short-term permitted without coming in and getting a sign permit itself, that would be included somewhere within 1024-4, the permitted and prohibited signs. So we'd have an item there that would just be, you know, temporary signs for, yeah, exactly.
I actually, I did that on my own today, and I had just some preliminary language. Temporary signs not exceeding, I had 400 square inches, but I'm certainly not opposed to making that even larger than that. That was just something I came up with based on some research on garage sale signs, but if we want to adjust that, that's fine.
The campaign signs are a little bit larger.
Yeah, not exceeding whatever size and placed for 5 days or less do not require a sign application. The city shall have the right to remove and destroy such signs if not removed after 5 days.
Yeah.
That's what I have for just language there. Again, that's certainly not saying that's all there is, but that's just to get us kind of talking about it. Try to write out some language.
The other thing that would be useful to look at for commissioners when they're talking about this would be to take a look at, let me see if I can find the page. On page 13 is the old language around garage sale signs, which were permitted. Part of what we basically be trying to do here would be, we're not calling them garage sale signs, we're not calling them garage sale signs or anything like that. But we would look at what the other requirements were for that type of sign. So in this case, rummage sale signs were allowed until 1 day after the end of the sale that was posted on the sign would not exceed 6 square feet. That they wouldn't be located in any public right of way or on utility poles or equipment. We could take a lot of that as it is, not including, you know, the language of rummage sale signs, making instead some sort of a short-term, like on-site sign or something like that. I don't believe they allow for off-premise either. No, so there, I mean, there wasn't anything in terms of on-premise, off-premise. I would, in reading this, and I'm reading it, there would be the allowance to have, going to be off-premise. That would be something we talk about, whether we wanted to or not allow, you know, one per, you know, property off-premise or something like that. But I'd say use this as a jumping off point, but again, just eliminating that specific call out to the content of the sign.
And that's where, the removal language, I kind of looked at that, I got it actually from that. one.
Yep.
I think we should talk about signing norms, I think you're gonna need to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The 6,
6 square feet to me seems to be rather large.
you know,
2 feet by 3 feet. 4 square feet might be
That's kind of what I was thinking.
a little better.
Sizes that you can't, normal campaign sign.
They're gonna be close to 2 by 3.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that that's mostly the size. When you have a garage sale, you put your sign on. Is it about 2 by 3?
I mean,
Like
it's
the size of a
hard to say.
campaign
It's-
sign?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's big billboard, poster board size.
If you get the pink ones out of the bigger ones, I mean, you get the tiny ones too, and I'll use those sometimes.
How big are the big ones?
Like 2 by 3. I mean, they're
6
poster
square
board
feet.
size.
Yeah,
The campaign sign.
yeah, exactly.
For campaign signs, we have it up to 8 feet basically.
Well, I'm talking about the small ones.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm talking about the bigger ones. Because it seems to me that that's
so if
usually
you,
about the size of the garage sale sign.
if you put 6 square feet not exceeding 8 square feet.
Or I would just say, I would
I
just
would
put
say
not to exceed 8.
Not to exceed 6 square feet, or 8.
Or, I mean, whatever we decide.
I can
One,
seems to be 6 is
plenty big.
plenty big.
There again, when
I-
I looked one time, I was looking at where the black and orange ones that say garage sale, you know.
I think, I mean, it was,
I'm just going off the size of the campaign sign. That to me would be the size.
Well, let's figure out how big that sign is and no bigger than
And
that.
put that in.
Otherwise, you're gonna start getting
It's not a big sign though.
A lot of people use the poster board to make signs.
Yeah,
And
right.
It's like a 2 foot by 3 foot
3 foot,
board,
yeah.
you know, some will cut them down a big 2.
18 by 24, 24 by 36.
So make it big.
So the 6 square feet.
Another thing that people could use is like realtor signs where the realtors have thrown them away.
They're about the same size.
I have a couple.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
They're pretty close to that.
well, not like we're gonna go up there. We're not gonna measure. You know, it's gonna be an eyeball thing, you know, unless you're gonna go to tape measure.
Yeah, Byron.
I don't work for the city, I'm not going to take.
It's 22 by 28 is a poster board size.
Okay, but the campaign signs are larger than.
Well, they got, but anyway, you're talking inches, so
4 feet or 6.
6 square feet still get you right there.
Yeah.
It'll put you in
I think
the.
6 is a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
Okay, 6 square feet. Do we want to keep it in terms of, so the way that previously was worded with the within 1 day after end of sale, obviously that's all specific to garage sales. We could add something in terms of any of these
Within 1 day of the
short-term signs would have to have a date listed on them somewhere, and then in 1 day after.
Intended to be, it may not be displayed for more than 5 days.
More than 5 days. I think that's under just kind of, you know, because then at the very least, if one of the maintenance people is driving around, they see it on Monday and it's still up on Sunday, then they know it's been 5 days.
And what that does too is that for those that don't, they want to sign that size for more than 5 days, then it's,
Yeah,
get it permit and put a time frame on it.
It's not like we're gonna deny them. You know what I mean? We're not gonna deny them.
All right.
It's just, it's giving the city a little teeth to back things up.
Yeah. If they didn't get the permit and it gets removed and they say, well, I planned for 10 days, well, then you should have gotten a permit. The ordinance says anything more than 5 days you need a permit. So they complain about it, but it's, at least it's in the ordinance, we had the right to remove it because it exceeded the 5-day max. You know, so it's defensible.
And are you guys okay filling out a permit for your 30 days or 45 days, whatever you want? I mean, there's not gonna be a fee with it, it's just a matter of putting it on file at City Hall. I mean, is that reasonable, is that a compromise? You guys are willing to?
We have to, in the end,
It's gonna be City Council who's gonna vote on it, we can just make a recommendation to them.
Yeah, I would, for a longer period of time, I don't see a big issue with that. It's gonna be 30 days, 45 days.
You could
I mean, just give us a
photocopy them
ballpark.
and just change the dates, you know, I mean, just keep whipping them.
Yeah, not to give it the
Just change
it is
the
by
dates,
applicant,
it's
so
gonna be the same thing.
Because I know Montrose Day is for us, we have something going on next month, November, or December has something, January we have something.
Yeah.
I mean.
So, I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, the other thing I'll pass along to Kevin Triplett, the chief, because I told him I was coming here tonight to find out about our signs that we can put out. Because we have one big sign that's on wheels that right behind the truck.
Right. I mean, we just want to know approximately how many days it's going to be up. You know, you put 45 days and if it's down in 32 days, whatever, just give us an approximate. So if somebody comes to City Hall and says, that's been up for whatever, we'll have an idea of saying, no, it hasn't been. You know, it's just trying to protect everyone. There's going to be someone, I can guarantee you, because
And
people
again,
are.
it's not necessarily directed at you guys as much as the people that are doing it in the nefarious way, or, you know, low maintenance and stuff like that.
But if we're gonna require it for them, we gotta require it of you.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to protect everybody.
Do we need to get permission of where they get put?
I think the only, so we would have to talk about, I think right now we're allowing for them to be off premise or on premise. I think usually there might be some language in terms of like one on a property at a time kind of thing. But the only regulation in terms of where it might like get pulled before it would be done would be if it fell into that in the public right of way or, you know, on a lamp post, that kind of thing where we have it written in.
What was going to be put in the public right of way?
I think as of right
Can they
now,
be put there if you fill out a permit and you're told where they're going to be?
don't think we have it written as such, but it's something we can talk about. I think
Right now, the current ordinance is no.
Yeah, right now, the ordinance is panhandling everything in public right of way.
Okay, because I know for the city of Montrose days, the signs have been there before
Well, that could very well be.
and it was never issued. And all of a sudden this year it was, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and
that's
good
that we could get that language cleared
And I think if
Okay.
you give the guys a heads up that you're putting them there, you know, at City Hall, so they know they're going up, maybe it was new guys who didn't know,
Okay,
that can say, you know what, we're putting these up for 30 days, can you just leave them?
Yeah, because it's not hard to
Right.
pull a sign, put it back in, and have to go grab it.
Right, so as long as they know, you know, when that permit's on file, they can't touch them.
the only question, it wasn't on like a sidewalk or anything like that?
No.
Okay, well, yeah, that's the only thing where that could get into ADA, you know, clearance and stuff.
they
like
were
that.
plenty far away from sidewalk,
Okay, perfect to them.
so that's why I'm asking.
Yep.
I saw the one on Conroe 12. Any further comment in regards to signage? If none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:53. And reopen planning and zoning meeting at 7:54. Deb, you need to change the date?
Yeah, I probably should.
Okay, so we'll just take a brief minute while that changes the date. So we'll make recommendations to city council, and then city council ultimately makes the final decision.
Well, we won't be making a decision tonight.
He's got to redo
Let's
it.
get it, produce
Can
them.
you reread it? Can you look at it again?
And Barry will play more on the new ones. Right, Barry? On the new one. You say, oh, we should have this or that. Or take this out.
Okay, well, we resumed the planning and zoning commission meeting. Old business.
I think.
We don't have-
No business.
Okay. New business, city planner updates.
Sure, so I don't know.
The only update that we have is just letting you know that this is Miles' last meeting with us. He took a job with the city of Golden Valley, and so we had a meeting on Monday with Miles and Mr. Gritman, who is one of the principals of the company, and his son Ryan is going to take over for us, and I did put his resume in front of you. So.
Ryan, do you want to come to the mic? Just kind of do a little introduction so that.
My name's Ryan Griffin. I'll be taking over for Miles. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, and I have a bad cold, so I apologize for that. But I'm actually a Buffalo High School graduate, 2002. Went to St. Cloud State for community development. And I've been working with NEC for the past 3 years now, 3 to 4 years, so happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
There's one other thing that we do have to talk about. Ryan does work in other cities, so there's a conflict with our meeting with another city that he has. And so we need to discuss changing our meeting. I was going to recommend to you and see what you say, the second Wednesday of the month.
Next month I cannot, I already have another meeting on my books.
Okay.
That I have to go to. So I cannot.
Do you have that meeting on a regular basis that it's?
No, it's
Okay.
just a one-time thing
Okay.
that I was informed about that I need to be at.
Okay.
So
Doesn't matter.
other than after next month, I'm fine with changing it.
Okay, so with that said, everybody, should we have next month's the first or the fourth Wednesday of the month? So Tracy can be here?
Don't we have an alternate?
We got, Mary is the alternate.
Okay, so if you want to go ahead, we can, Barry, can you be here?
I'll sit back.
I don't know about all that power.
Okay, so.
Yes, I can be here.
So the.
Or we can do the ninth.
It would be the 9th.
We're doing the regular meeting next month.
We're gonna do the regular meeting next month on the 16th, or we have to change it for next month?
We have to change it for next month.
Oh.
The 9th is better than the 16th. I should be here, or 16th.
Okay.
Unless it's sunny and 50, which I'll be going.
So we have to, I do need you to make a motion because the mayor appointments has this listed as the third Wednesday. We're going to have to amend that.
Well, it sounds like we need two motions. First motion would be to move the October 16th meeting to the 9th. I'll make that motion.
All those in favor of moving October's meeting to October 9th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And then I think we need a motion, I'll make a motion to, reschedule the normal planning commission meeting to the second Wednesday of the month.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to move planning and zoning meetings from the third Wednesday to the second Wednesday of the month starting in October 2019. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Just on another, we didn't formally continue the public hearing for the sign ordinance to next month's meeting. We just closed the public hearing, we didn't actually continue. Do we need to go back and actually make a motion to continue that so it can get reposted for next month's meeting?
Do you need to continue with all the information that you gave?
But it really should be continued on motion, not just, otherwise it really just kind of sits there.
Do we need another public hearing next month?
I don't know if we need a
Well, it seems to me we should, we're at the point now where,
We can just make decisions.
Yeah, see what the
Once with the
language is
new
that comes
language and not
back.
have to have another public
See if
hearing.
the language comes back next month. Because there was quite a few changes.
I don't think we need to continue it, but.
You can always do it now, I guess.
Okay.
I was just
yeah, because
checking.
you have to post again if you're gonna have another public hearing, or you
Correct.
continue the one we had, or, so it really is.
And that way too, that is a fairly short turnaround, if the turnaround can't be made, and the language isn't quite ready to go, then we're gonna address it again, so we can just leave it as what. The public hearing portion was technically closed, first, or when Tracy closed it.
I think we're okay.
Okay, I just wanted clarification.
So under next meeting, I had put October 16th, but that was before I knew that Miles was moving on, so it's actually going to be October 9th.
Any further business to come before this planning and zoning meeting? Hearing no further business, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of adjourning the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, September 11th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, meeting adjourned at exactly 8 p.m. Thanks, everyone.